Mr. Siim Sikkut, National ICT Policy Advisor at Government Office of Estonia, to start his sharing. Mr. Sikkut, please. Here Mr. Sikkut is setting up his projector. Today's dinner is jointly organized by IPRA, IDAA, and coordinated by 11 ICT association, namely BCS Hong Kong section, CHKCI, ITJC, Hong Kong SIA, ISIA, Monty-J Hong Kong, Hong Kong Innovation Technology Preferred, ISACA, Hong Kong Science Park Corporation, Tech Matrix Research Center, and Community and Social Affairs Committee of Wireless Association. And this event is supported by support. Mr. Cook, may you please start.
Thank you. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I must say I'm more than pleased to be here. I'm actually very humbled to be here. I mean, I must be honest with you, I rarely talk to so many IT professionals in the same room, right? But thank you very much for Whitman for all the kind words and actually having me here. I can say that even after, it was a week in Tallinn, right? After this week in Tallinn, Whitman must be one of the greatest friends that Estonia has in Hong Kong, so very pleased to be here. And just very brief words before we get into the topic then about what I do and then why I'm here perhaps. So my job is basically to make sure that our Prime Minister knows what ICT is about. So I advise our Prime Minister about anything e-government related up to what happens with ICT in the economy, our ICT sector and so forth. So my main interest is revolves around what is our strategy in a way, what's the long-term picture, where we're trying to take Estonia. And this is what brought me to Hong Kong as well, to perhaps get some ideas myself from here as well, because we otherwise tend to be too stuck in Europe. So I try to expand our horizons a bit now. But I would like to get a bit of feeling of the people and the audience. So I'll ask a few questions, and if I can get like a show of hands. So who has been to Estonia actually? Twice, okay. Whitman has. So just two people? Okay. Who knows where Estonia is? That's more people, okay. Who uses Skype? Okay, almost everybody. Well, see, you're all friends of Estonia now, right? So, to brief a bit those who still haven't studied the map too much, then Estonia is a very tiny country in the northeast of Europe. So we happen to be, I guess, in a good and a bad spot of the world. It's a good spot because we have so many good neighbors. It's a bad spot because we have so many bad neighbors as well, right? But we definitely are on the side of Northern Europe. So again, we do a lot, and we try to take up a lot of examples of our Nordic neighbors, Sweden, Finland, and so forth, and try to steer away a bit from the Russian neighbors. So, but just a few more words about the introduction of my country. I very much love the introduction that ICT can do much for your home. In Estonia, this actually for us has been a driving principle. We have always tried to figure out how this technology can make our home better. And what is our home? Country much larger than Hong Kong Island, but yeah, same amount of people. So we have lots of woods where you can get lost without seeing anybody, right? Doesn't happen in Hong Kong. And what else? Just very brief few facts. So I guess our GDP, so wealth-wise, we're halfway where Hong Kong is, I guess. It's roughly so, I believe. But it's been crazy and good and fun 20 years of making that. So ever since we restored our independence in '91, it's been quite a roller coaster ride. So ever since, I believe, the beginning of '90s, we actually took a lot from the Hong Kong example. You're on a strategic, crossroad of countries and transit ways, right? You're very liberal, you're very open to trade. Again, you try to do things sort of in a future kind of manner. So this is exactly the model that we took up when we regained independence. But we added to that technology, right? And so, just one last glimpse. Whitman mentioned that, internet, or let's say internet connectivity and access is a human right. I have to let it down a bit. So it's not officially written in Constitution yet, right? But the fact is that you can get free Wi-Fi access anywhere, everywhere in the country. I know that in Hong Kong, things are pretty good with that. So I'm very happy for you. Because usually when we go abroad, we feel like handicapped, constrained, because there's Wi-Fi there, but you always have to pay. You never do that in Estonia, right? But in Hong Kong, so we sort of feel the same. And what else? In our case, when we talk about, let's say, how many people, what is really the digital society? So in our case, by now, there's 80% of people who are internet users. Again, I know that share is higher in Hong Kong. I guess it's also been, let's say, longer in the making here. But 80% is something where we would say, okay, we are actually reaching somewhere. So I'll get to that, but this means that we have to perhaps less deal with the basic skills, but we can actually upgrade the skills of people now to, let's say, complete new level. But I'll start with something that Whitman has heard, but some of the things that we don't do in Estonia. So I'm going to talk about what we do, but I'll start with what we don't do. So checks. Anybody uses checks here in the banks? Never in Estonia. Never were there. So when we regained independence, so the point was that that's when internet was taking off, right? So our banks, we had to rebuild everything. We had to rebuild our banks, our financial system, our economy, our government. So we thought, let's use the best technology out there. Let's forget about the checks, checkbooks. Let's move to online banking right away. Even before US or anybody else did that. So now literally almost all transactions are done online, right, in online banks. Signatures. I actually really like coming to Hong Kong because I had to remember how to write my signature by hand. Already on the border, but now also in the shops for paying and stuff. Because we never do that at home. So whatever transaction there is, we can actually sign digitally. Whether with our ID card, I'll get to that, or whether my mobile phone that has a mobile ID on a SIM card. So the point is that there's one thing you cannot do digitally. One thing you have to show up in person. One thing you cannot do over internet. Does anyone want to take a guess what that is? Voting? You know you can. You cannot get married. So for that, with the spouse to be, you have to show up in person. You have to sign it yourself on paper. But we've done half of it digital, so you don't get the marriage certificate. Okay, that is just in the registry somewhere, right? But anyways, anything else? Business contracts, government decisions, everyday applications to government, whatever it might be, we sign digitally, right? So that means that the transactions, whatever we do, can be digital like that, right? And in a country of 1.3 million people, we by now, over 10 years, issued 100 signatures per person, and it's increasing massively every day. So again, this is a cornerstone of how we do things. What we don't do, so we don't stand in the line for voting, right? Especially when it's bad weather, and trust me, it can be really bad weather in Estonia, right? With snow and lots of rain and etc. Especially since for some reason I think the elections take place in the worst times of the year in a way, right? So very early spring, very late in the autumn, bad weather time, right? Because of that, we rather vote online over internet. Again, with the help of our electronic identity. But you could be here in Hong Kong, right? If you happen to be here, and vote for parliament in Estonia, right? So, or any place in the world. And a quarter of the people do. So again, this hasn't been around perhaps as long as some other services have been, but we've seen very fast increase in the uptake. So I guess when the next elections come, we hope to reach at least a third again now. Something else, parking meters, nowhere on the streets. Just because, again, when our municipality started focusing on parking and getting the fees for parking, mobiles were there already. So from the start, actually, we've always been, let's say, mobile parking based. Used to start with SMS now you get apps, so the technology is changing. But anywhere, literally anywhere, you can park with your mobile. Much easier. I can't say it's cheaper though, but it's getting more expensive all the time. But again, very convenient. And one last thing, you don't see our doctors signing any papers. Not even signing into the signature, but even writing stuff anymore. So even if you go to an emergency room or you go to an operation room, actually they have the tablets there. So the point is that, sorry for the misspelling, the point is that the whole health record is because out of that made an electronic. And the point there is that we could then share the data across whatever hospitals, family practitioners there are, but not just among the doctors, but also with the patients. So for example, the prescriptions are fully digital. I don't go to my doctor to get a prescription. I just call him or her, they issue it on my ID, I go to the pharmacy right away. I save time, essentially. So, some of the things we don't do. But I'll take one step back and perhaps philosophically a bit, let's say, why have we been doing this? Why we have been coming up with these solutions? And like I said, I think fundamentally it's that we want our home to be the best place possible, right? But there are a few aspects to that. From government side, where I come from, then our government has always been fiscally very conservative. So fiscal policy, having stable finances, having your house in order, financially, has always been very dear to our heart. This was part of our economic model, right? And because of that, there's always been a very big efficiency drive. But what gives you efficiency? If you do things better, right? And so in that sense, technology and the take-up of technology has really been driven by trying to be more efficient in what we do with the government, with the tax money that we raise. So just one example of that, I think Whitman has actually sit in one of these chairs. So you have the picture of our cabinet session. So this is our Council of Ministers. So my boss, the Prime Minister, Urmas, your counterpart Whitman, is missing, I believe, for the picture. So it's the chairs for you there, right? But you don't see papers on the table. You see tablets, right? Because all the decision making from the point when you start a draft law in a department, in a ministry, up to the point it becomes a law from Parliament, that's all electronic, all online, all automated as much as possible actually as well. So the point is that there's no need to have papers in the cabinet table because everything is in the information system, everything is digital, how government operates. So we call it paperless government essentially. Business. So we like sauna a lot, right? So we're northern people, right? If you get an idea that you want to start a company, you sit down with the guys and you get a really good business idea, you can have the company up in the next 20 minutes. Why? Because we try to do business making, so the environment for business as efficient as possible. So that all the things that you have to do for licenses, application to start a company, all the sort of bureaucracy would be as fast, as easy as possible for you. Because then again, you can be more efficient in what you actually want to do. Do business, right? And people. We can't forget about people in terms of efficiency as well, because I already brought the example of electronic health records, right? So this is an example of the portal where we can access all our health records. Unfortunately in Estonian it's only. But the point is that if I don't have to go to my doctor, right, to get a prescription, if my doctor can access my previous medical records, that means that I save time. If I save time, I actually can spend that on other things that I'm more efficient at, right? I don't have to wait in lines, I don't have to go somewhere to get some paper. So again, efficiency for people in everyday life has also been a driving factor. But not just efficiency, like I said, it's about home. It's about actually making people's life, or life for people, more comfortable, more convenient, more easy in a way. And then it can be even small things. So example of e-school. E-school is an online environment that connects together almost all our kids, parents and teachers. So the point of e-school is that you could have a very easy understanding of how is your kid progressing in school, what's the curriculum, what was the homework, did my kid actually miss a class, right? You can get a notification to your mobile if he or she does miss a class. But the point is that something that's critical as your child's education is to you. You want to have a very convenient overlook and very convenient sort of participation in the process. Again, technology allows you to do that. And finally, coming from government circles, all governments have policy goals. We want to have better Hong Kong, better Estonia. We want to have a more safer streets, right? So what we have seen is that technology actually can give you a better policy output, can take you closer to your goals, your objectives. So here we have an example of how we use technology in basically internal security operations. So whether it's the police or the border guard. We have automated lots of border control, not controls, but let's say everyday monitoring of the borders with just camera-based systems. Again, because people are not just good enough. Camera has a much sharper eye, right, for even. Or the police. In all the police cars, or even actually motorbikes, right, they have some kind of device where they can access all different kinds of databases if they need to do a checkup on a person really quick. Since we introduced that into a police car, we automatically saw a very sharp increase in solved cases. Just because policemen now had a tool to do just checkup. If they had some suspicion, they could just take the license plate, plug it in. Nowadays it's actually camera recognition. So they get an understanding of the background. Is the car perhaps stolen? Okay. As a driver had some driving under influence kind of accidents, should we check up him again? Can the driver be wanted for some other issues? So the point is that since we introduced that technology, we actually have safer streets now. Again, we got closer to what we're trying to achieve with our policy. So efficiency, comfortable life for people, but also the policy impact is let's say, some of the reasons why we try to rely on technology so much. And there's one last thing, expectations. Estonia, I think that we are very lucky because if you give more good services and digital service to people, actually start asking for more. So that keeps us on the toes, which is actually a good thing. We have to keep running it together with the technological trends. We have to keep innovating, especially if we have these guys coming out of the nursery, let's say, who start tweeting right away after they're born. So all the digital natives, they don't know any other way. They don't know any other way of government. They expect it to be digital fully in every possible way, right? And do a good job at it. Not just be online, but actually be there, in a user-friendly manner. So it's the expectations by this point that also drive us. So at first we were trying to give something to people, now they actually demand it. So I think that's good. I'll say a few words about how we have done some of the things we've done. So I mean, I gave lots of examples, and I run through lots of numbers of some of the things that we enjoy in our life. But again, let's go to the policy principles or the approach. And I should actually start not from government at all, but in terms of policy, our first focus has always been skills. Giving people the tools, the capacity to use these services, to use the new tools, the new technologies. I have a logo of what we call Tiger Leap program. This is where our ICT policy started back in '96, before any government work, before anything else. This was literally very principle at the time, taking internet to each and every school, having each and every school, putting into each and every school a classroom with computers, giving teachers the training so that we could actually educate future users, right? And we followed it up, with very different kinds of programs. By this point, for example, we have educated, I believe, 1/6 of the adult population in very basic digital use of digital skills, right? How to browse, how to use electronic identity, so exactly everyday kind of skills. But the point has always been that if we want to become more efficient as government, you actually have to have the users. If you want to have the users, especially when we're thinking in '90s, you actually have to, give them the skills and the tools to use. But at the same point, that creates the virtuous circle that I was telling you about. So if they do have the skills, they actually wanted to give a good service, right? And so that brings me to another sort of principle in a way, is that we are very business friendly in Estonia. Absolutely. Whenever sort of business and private sector can take care of things, we don't intervene. But at the same time, at least when it comes to technology, we've always said, look, we can lead the way. So if we sort of even try to sort of stay one step ahead, we can push others to follow. We can get more technology, for example, used in the country. So we already talked about the e-cabinet, right? E-cabinet started in 2000, right? E-cabinet was paperless decision making. This started in 2000 because our prime minister said, look, internet is booming, internet is becoming big, ICT is big. If we want our society, our people, our businessmen to use the technology, we have to show the way. We have to get rid of all the papers in this our room, in our decision making, if we want others to follow. So we have to show an example, right? And this was way back. Of course, like I said, we're happy if others actually sort of do the same kind of leading and role modeling as well, not just the government. But even these days we see that there's more venues that we can go to. I mean, everybody talks about big data in the world. Actually, not in Estonia. We have lots of data as government, so we're now thinking, okay, can we really push others to follow down the analytical route? Because again, we could use it ourselves and show the others the way to do it. So it's constantly, you can sort of keep innovating with new sort of tools and technologies out there, because again, we're not taking the market away. Rather, we're trying to build the market, build sort of partners for us in that. And talking about building, then I'll get into more detail because these pictures are hard to see. But governmental approach has been this, that, okay, let's really focus on the building blocks first. Let's put in place the tools, the architecture, the solutions that then everybody can reuse. And so basically, if we want to get lots of good digital services, we have to make sure that there are some certain common building blocks in place that every service needs. So for example, electronic identity. So we have had an ID card. There's a picture there, but I have it with me as well. This is my key to everything I do digitally, right? Or my mobile phone, 2 keys, right? The equivalent. The point was that everybody who wants to provide a service, a bank, a company, government agency, has to make sure that somebody doing some operations, actually him or her, you have to do authentication, right? But why do it each time separately? The user doesn't want to have 10 zillion of different logon details, right? Plus, they need a high level of security if they really want to do contracts, sign digitally something, right? So setting up a very secure, very strong eID network was one of those building blocks that everybody then can reuse. Any government agency, any private sector counterpart, right? So that's one example. So now, like I said, our digital signatures are now based on that. So very core of how we do things is based on this kind of building block. Secondly, from the very start, we started focusing on actually making sure that we can have a connected government. A connected government in the sense that we would be able to link anything together that we need. So the point was that instead of building up silos, actually I start to say it differently. The reason why we did this, why we did not build up silos by agency and different kinds of operating systems, because we were poor. Connected government for us was a poor man's government. So we didn't have enough money to go invest into all the information systems, and when we started looking into the projects and the cost details, we understood that actually a very big share of the cost is that everybody wants to link to everybody, right? So we thought, okay, let's have a common solution. Let's have a common data exchange layer, essentially, a service bus, technologically speaking, if you wish, that everybody shares. Uniform language, uniform protocols, uniform organization, and we get rid of the cost. And out of that, you also get integrated services. So that's the beauty of it. And I mean, I'll do just one very short demo. I hope it works. But I mean, we really like our interoperability. We really like the X-Road, as we call it. That's the service bus. Because again, it allows us to connect anything and everything that we need. Of course, we have to protect privacy in the case. But still, if you need it for a service, you can do it easily and fast and secure. So I'll log us on to what we call, it's a demo solution. Ervina doesn't mean anything really. But the point is that this can show, I'll log in with my mobile ID, how much we can really connect together very easily. So I'll just punch in my mobile number. I should get a request for my ID. That also shows you how easy it is to use mobile ID, right? So it takes just a few seconds with the connection here coming from Estonia, right? Okay, I'm asked for a PIN code. I enter my PIN code. And in a few seconds I should be in. Right. Connection lines that go across the oceans, right? I'm in. You see, one by one now data starts popping up. This is behind each and every one bit of data is something about me. Some kind of database, some kind of record, different databases, right? So this basically shows that I can have a complete overview of, let's say, who I am, what I've done, where I live, whatever like that. I can connect things together very easily. Again, this is just a demo. You can do it for other service purposes as well. But the point is that having that is an enormous asset. Having that allows actually to give a good service to people. And this is, again, connected government is what we perhaps should be about. So from here you don't get any too funky details about me, unfortunately. You get my age and some other things, but I haven't done.
Your birthday?
Yeah, you get my birthday, right? You get an idea who's my family doctor, right? So I haven't done anything illegal, unfortunately, for you guys. Okay. Right. So X-Road makes it happen. That's why we talk a lot about X-Road. That's a building block because, again, like I said, connects our government together. And not just the government. If banks need to send some information to the government agency about a person, for example, they can do it with the same framework, right? So the point is that we actually try to build like a service space, like an architecture for the whole of our digital economy through that. Again, it's a building block that everybody and anybody can use if they want to connect to somebody. Takes the cost down, is more secure, so forth. And what's been, I mean, I guess it's funny to say in a crowd of IT professionals, but our principle has been that it's never about technology. So it's not about what you have in terms of devices, systems, solutions, whatever. It's about how you use them, how you use the technology. So our focus has always been, okay, how do we redo how we do things? How do we do things differently? How do we redesign our processes? So I'll give you one example, tax declarations. These were the very first service we actually provided digitally to people. So the point was that, okay, submit electronically a tax declaration to us because you have to do it every year anyway, right? We could have simply put a blank form online, right? That you had to fill up with all the data and stuff. Instead, we have a pre-filled electronic declaration. Us as government, we know about your salaries anyway, because you have, I mean, your employer has to declare them throughout the year. In our system, tax is deducted every month, right, when it's paid, right? So for us, it's rather the question of reimbursement, not the tax due at the end of the year. But the point is that we have all this data. We know, for example, what mortgages you've taken out because your bank has the data and so forth. So we can pull that together and have a pre-filled tax declaration to you. You don't have to use accountants, lawyers, sorry guys, to actually do all that work and to actually get something like a tax declaration done. For most of the people, a tax declaration is open up, log in with mobile ID, review, click, review, click, review, click, review, submit. That's it, you get the reimbursement. Just because, again, most of the people don't need to adjust any data out there, right? Because, again, salaries are known and so forth. If somebody wants to hide something, they start tweaking around, right? But the point is that if you rethink how you do things, then you can do even the things that people have to do convenient for them. So it's about, again, what is the process? What do we do as government? And technology allows us to do it differently. But in itself, it doesn't give us a different process. We actually have to redesign it on purpose. And finally, and this is very dear to my government, if we want to rely on technology as much as we do, and if we rely on technology as much as we do, trust and security are paramount. It's like, sorry for saying, it's like yin and yang, I guess, right? These two have to go along every time. In each and every solution, right? Whatever service is out there, whatever sort of system is being designed, we try to make it as secure as possible. We call it security by design. At the same time, we know that there are some critical, I mean, you can never be 100% foolproof. So, in terms of risk management, we do a lot of that. We know what are our critical vulnerabilities, we know what are our critical systems, we monitor them very closely. Because the point is that if you lose trust, you lose the users, you lose the e-government. That, us in Estonia, at least by this point, we say we cannot afford that. And here I should say perhaps a few words of background. Then Estonia happened to be the first country in the world to be cyber attacked on a large scale. This was back in 2007. Some people have heard probably about this, but so we had some incidents with our eastern big neighbors, right? And so it just so happened that right afterwards we started getting lots of attacks, DDoS attacks, so basically traffic, attacks against our government websites, portal systems, banks, major newspapers. So we've been through a bit of cyber war in Estonia. I can take pride that we always stayed online. What we did, I can show you that actually, that we had to cut for external connections. So from abroad, let's say from Hong Kong, you couldn't access our servers, our websites, right? But we were always up within our country where our users were, most of them at least. But the point was that from that experience we learned everybody's vulnerable. You have to pay very close attention to cyber security. And we try to sort of take that bad experience into good experience. We actually try to learn a lot from it. So now we try to really sort of champion cybersecurity in the whole world, especially in Europe, work with lots of partners, because again, all of us need this. And I'll get to one more topic. So I'll be talking a lot about e-government, but like I said, my work and my role actually revolves around how our ICT sector, how our digital economy develops. And perhaps it's been a principle, you could say. I should have added to the previous slides, but our approach has been this, that we cannot favor an Estonian company in our procurements, but we should do our best that they would be eligible partners if we have some procurements and some competitions going on. So we try to basically, again, through building e-government, we try to also make sure that our economy develops, that our ICT sector develops in terms of capacity. And I'm lucky to say that this has happened. Our approach has always been not buy for the cheapest stuff, buy the stuff that's best for you, value for money. And in our case, it usually has happened to be actually local-made, tailor-made solutions. X-Road, EID, all the kind of different services, all local-made. Nothing off the shelf, I can say. Lots of stuff based on open source, open standards, and so forth. The reason being, it's better value for money. And through that, you develop a local sector. Right? So by now, we can say that quite a few domestic, I call them majors. They're nothing on the scale of Hong Kong companies, but have come up who now export quite a few of these solutions to other countries of the world. At the same time, we also take a lot of pride in having quite a few international companies in Estonia with research centers, with shared service centers, Skype being the most prominent of them. So Skype was born in Estonia, developed in Estonia, and the biggest development center still is in Estonia. So there is a Symantec center. Okay, it's a basically a security company, and quite a few others. Playtech is the biggest online casino developer, for example. If anyone of you gambles online, right? So the point is that our ICT sector by this point has many facets. There's the domestic guys who have gotten the experience and the capacity to do all the e-government and other solutions that are done at home. But at the same time, we have managed to attract quite a few international players because they come here, they come to experience what is this digital society about, how to develop products for that area. Okay, they want to tap into the talent pool as well. And besides that, what we are very keen on is startups. So Skype was a startup. Skype was the very first, and of course it still remains the biggest startup success story coming out of Estonia. Because Skype was there, lots of people got employed, got experience, and well, quite a few people got wealthy as well. So that really got our venture capital market going, out of which then also the startup companies started growing. So here you have quite a few examples. I can't go through all of them, but I'll share a few. So anybody recognize any logos, by the way? Any logos familiar to you at all? You might watch out for them though. So you have that, for example, if anybody wants to trade currencies and skip the banks, TransferWise, perfect company. They basically allow you to exactly skip the banks, and if you need, for example, Great Britain, British pounds, right? Again, use these guys. Fortumo is a mobile payments company. China Mobile, all the world's telecom majors use their solutions for mobile payments, essentially. So they write the code for them. GrabCAD is the biggest, if you wish, mechanical engineers Facebook, right? So they are now getting big with 3D printing because, again, through that, people share the sketches, the designs, collaborate a lot. Now Innovations is a mobile parking company, actually. They've done now a mobile parking. They have also now taken it to Shanghai, for example, Moscow, right? So I could go on and on, but the point is that besides growing all the big guys, we understood that if we really want to develop new stuff for the future, we have to get these guys going as well. So we have to get new innovation going. We have to get new companies there. Somebody who will actually bring the next growth in a way, and the next good solution that also our government can use. So too many words on the slide, but I'll just briefly say. So let's say what we've done. We've actually tried to do a lot on the whole life cycle of company development. So we tried to do a lot of promotion just to get new ideas out there, so that actually companies would grow out of them. We've done a lot of competence center work, just getting researchers and businesses together, so that actually again new ideas, new products, new innovations could come out of that. Us as government, we actually started investing equity into companies, right? Now we are moving out of that because again the market has grown, so now we're doing a fund of funds investment as government. But the point still is that again, let's have more of the movement, let's have more of the momentum in startup industry. Accelerators, incubators. If you grow bigger, there's grants and loan schemes. But most crucially, how we keep the foreign companies is that if you reinvest your profits, we don't tax you as a company. So the point is that if you want to keep business in Estonia, no tax for you if you made a profit, right? You still pay the labor taxes, and your people and own base and salary and so forth. Everybody does. But again, if you want to do business, if you want to invest, we don't charge you for that. And I mean, how we've been able to make it happen, because again, we are a country of 1.3 million people. So that means that our talent pool actually is very, very small. So our approach has been, like I said already before, we have done a lot of work on the skills side, and we still continue to do. Now that we have 80% of people online already, which means that we still have to work on the last 20, right? But at the same time, it means that with 80% of people, we can now really do work to actually get them to be, let's say, more proficient users, as well as creators, right? Not just the regular users of IT solutions, but creators of them. So that is why, for example, guys like this kid, we have now taken coding classes, computer classes, into first grade in school. So all throughout the years, 1st through 12th grade, you get exposure to what is really, what is coding, how do you program a robot, how do you develop a website. So the point is that, again, we will get some skills to these kids that they can use in later life. Even if they don't become a programmer, developer themselves, they will become a wise buyer, hopefully. But at the same time, we try to get them hooked. Because if they find it cool, they will choose an IT career. So this means that we will have more people to work with down the line. And in Estonia, at least I say it this way, there's always more ideas than people, so we really need the people. But once these guys are grown up, right, so we can't just sort of have really eager guys coming out of high school and then nothing happens in university, right? So a lot of our focus also goes to actually upgrading our ICT higher education. Study IT in .ee. Basically, we took all the better programs of our universities, put them under one sort of branding umbrella. Skype co-funds it. But the point is that we really try to take it to the next level now. Also, not with just our own students, but actually trying to attract foreign students, foreign talent in. Because we know, very honestly, we cannot compete for the best guys in the market today, but we try to compete for the best guys in the market tomorrow, right? Or even if not the best, at least the second echelon, because they're good enough as well, right? So, ICT talent is our biggest challenge. I'm very honest about this. And that is also why, I'll be saying later on, we try to really sort of collaborate across borders, because tap into other people's talent a bit. Because again, we have ideas, we've done a few things, we want to do more, but again, we just need more people for that. So I'll be ending with a few slides about, let's say, where we're trying to go. I've been mostly saying about things that we have done, but perhaps just sharing with you some of the things that we are now trying to do for the future. And I should start by this, that our government really now strategically tries to make Estonia larger. So the point is that e-government usually is all about ending at national borders, but why should it, right? So for example, I hope that in a year's time, if you come to Estonia, all of you could get our electronic identity, right? Just because again, now we try to make it available for all the foreigners to apply to. So if you want to sort of, again, do with your partner here a contract fully digitally, you can use our ID. It means that also the law will be, applying to the contract will be ours, but still, you have an option. You have an option, right? But, this is just an example. At the same time, we try to now also do more work on let's say, the very, diplomatic and policy side. We try to set up a think tank. Because again, we have this kind of notion that the way and the level to which we use the digital solutions in our life is perhaps progressing, that, our life as such, our society is changing so much that we don't really grasp it anymore. So now we try to have a think tank, and a global looking think tank, to actually sort of, explain that a bit. So really sort of say, how can technology really change society? Right? Because we see it happening around it, but you need some kind of, let's say, rationalization of that. And finally, cross-border services. So this is really sort of taking e-government across the borders. Estonia is in the European Union, so we're supposed to have an internal market anyway, that companies and people can move between all the European countries freely. But their services and their data always stay behind. And we are not happy with that. So now we're really working with European partners to sort of, again, have interoperability across the whole of Europe, connecting 500 people to 1 million people together, right? We try to have digital signatures and digital transactions through that in the whole of Europe. We try to do it this way that, wherever you are in Europe, the government, any government, can ask your data only once, for example. So we try to really sort of push the whole of Europe, because we see so much value that technology brings in our home. We want it actually to be in the whole of single market that we enjoy otherwise. And a big part of that is that we actually give our solutions away for free. So we talked about X-Road, connecting our government together. Now we are giving our X-Road, for example, to our Finnish neighbors, because then we can connect our governments together, right? And at the same time, they are free to use it for their purposes. Our hope is that at some point, perhaps it doesn't have to be the X-Road, but something similar, we connect the whole of Europe together. Right. So again, cross-border e-government is what we see. It's like, I can't say e-government 2.0, that's overused, but it's the next level, the next step for us at least. But besides, we have to do lots of things at home. I talked already about skills, so again, we have to invest into skills a lot. What we also will do, we have lots of good working services, but not all of them are necessarily user-friendly anymore, right? Quite a few, we are building up our own legacy, I should say. We started having no legacy, doing everything from scratch, but by now, everybody's building up legacy. So now we try to actually redesign a lot of the services that are out there. I mean, multi-platform approach is just one of them, right? Something everybody has to do. But at the same time, there's one more thing that I'm very keen on, is that our government has lots of data about people and users and policy and so forth. You saw my data, right? But we don't really use it enough to do better services and better policy decisions, right? So we gather it, we provide it to you as a service based on that, but we don't really do analytics with that. And at the same time, we know that analytics is really taking off in the world. So now we are saying that, okay, Estonia is very well poised to actually get value out of that. So we should do more of that, right? And what's the vision? I mean, not too fancy words, but the point is that we want to keep our home awesome. So we want Estonia to be this place where if you want to come up with new, very well working, smart electronic digital solutions, if you want to test them, not even develop them there, but let's say test in a whole of country, in a national level setting, we could be the place, at least in European sense. And of course, I mean, this is not unique in a sense because again, it will not be just one country who does that. But actually, we would like to be at least one of the 3 or 5 countries of the world who is sort of like this kind of a hub. So that's why I'm very eager about what is going on in Hong Kong. I hope you will have ambitious plans and an agenda for that, because I hope that, if you come in a few years' time, we can say, okay, Hong Kong is one of them, Estonia is second of them, right? So with that, I will end for now. I'll be very happy to take a few questions. We'll have a chat later on, but I thank you so far.